having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Got up in the morning, took a shot at the rock. Girl, you left my stomach in a knot. Took my lighter and you burned the bridge. Thought you was a writer, no, you're just an idol. You got me feeling like Big Shawn in this 5, 4, 3, 2. I deserve a minute, wait a minute. Gotta get up and over, regain my composure. No longer my lover, finally finished and you did it. Girl, you really showed me, think with your heart, don't think with your body, clever. Sorry not sorry, sorry not Justin Timberlake, write me a river. Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. You tried to convince me it was all in my head, and I felt like it's not you, it's me instead. I wanted to rock with you, roll with you. Said you was my baby girl, then you left me too. Everything was kosher, perfect like a poster. Then I got word that you wanna lead a picture. Off with somebody else, off with the jerk. With the shame on me, I really thought that it could work. Off with somebody else, off with the loser. Shame on me, I really thought we had a... Lately I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to turn to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead. I be having conversations with myself cause I feel like I have nobody to talk to. Everything was green light, now we got the red. Could've had somebody else, chose you instead.
And the global greetings. Welcome to another edition of DeTopiks here on Real Entertainment Network. It's another beautiful Tuesday evening here on the beautiful island of Nevis and in the beautiful Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And we're here live and lively with you on the Real Entertainment Network platform. I want to say good evening, Oli. I want to say good evening, Liamiga. I want to say good evening to the rest of the entire Eastern Caribbean. Also, depending on where you are globally, afternoon, morning, evening, one of those greetings may be applicable to you. So we just want to make sure that you're greeted in such a format. We want to welcome all those who are usually logged in via whether it's a Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch TV as we are simulcast on those 3 platforms. We want to definitely encourage folks to go on over to our YouTube platform. That's one of our missions this year. We want to be able to increase, our following on that platform. As as things are right now, Facebook only keeps the videos for at least a month, but you could see them over and over on the YouTube platform for a very long time. And so we want to encourage you to go over, subscribe, click on the notification bell, and you'll be informed every time we have a program here on Real Entertainment Network. This evening, as we're kicking things off on a brand new 2026, we have, as usual, always have some interesting shows and interesting guests. And so this evening, we have with us Honorable Dr. Shawn Richards, who is no stranger to the platform. I'm sure we could almost call him a co-host, not necessarily a guest, but he's here with us, and we're going to have as usual, engaging discussion, and we're looking forward to you and your comments and your calls the numbers to call in. We're going to give you the numbers early, and we're going to probably have it sliding across the screen for you as the program runs. 1-869-665-8459 or 1-869-662-7196. And those are the numbers to call in if you want to be a part of the show. So what we're going to do now, we're going to give our usual co-host, Shabazz Banky King, an opportunity to introduce himself. And then I'm going to go through with a brief biography of the Honorable Shawn Richards, and then give him an opportunity to, well, maybe correct or just anything that I have in my bio for him, and give an introduction to himself and a little backdrop about himself, because even though he has been here several times before, many might not know who he is, so we'll give him that opportunity to give a little backdrop about himself, and then we get into some of the things that we want to discuss. So, Shabazz Banky King, global greetings. Welcome to another edition of The Topics.
Yes, and greetings to our guest Shawn. How are you doing? And greetings to those who tuning in, whether via and those who listening to our social media. Greatly appreciate the guys tuning in, because you could be listening to any other media house, but you choose to listen to Real Entertainment Network and The Topics, which means you have a solid interest when it comes to our selection of guests and stuff like that. So really looking forward for you guys' participation. Let me say The Topics is sponsored by Shabazz Organics and Manster's Last Stop, located at Cades Bay, where you get fresh fruits and vegetables and a small soup rate. And on Fridays and Saturdays and Sunday, you get your home-cooked meal, car meal and fish, car meal and oxtail, car meal and chicken and rice, and the same meat choice, and your garden salads and whatever it is. Or if you want a farm tour, just relax on the tour, you get the best view of St. Kitts and the peninsula right on the farm. So ain't nothing like what we have at Cades Bay. You have the farm, and you have the food from the farm goes into the kitchen and serve it right there in a big porch, and you enjoy the scenery right there, seaside. So appreciate those who continue to support Shabazz Organics at Manster's Last Stop, keeping my Uncle Manster memory alive. Coming up this next month, in the 14th of Valentine's, we have the second annual Manster Fest, where you come and we have your coconut, your jelly water, get your farm tours, just get some memories when Manster was around, how the farm was, and just serving the community for over 40 years as a fisherman and as a farmer. So I'm just keeping his memory alive with his children, and, you know what I mean, keep serving the community and keep doing what he always wanted. So greatly appreciate the guys tuning in this evening to The Topics, and definitely looking forward for the reasoning with our guest, Yason. Good evening, Shawn. How are you doing?
Before I get into the introduction with the bio with Shawn, I hear you say keeping on the legacy of Manster. So we shouldn't be surprised if we see you with a boat and a fishing boat sometime in the not too distant future then.
Yeah, man. The easy thing that don't meditate on that already. Don't think about getting some fish pattern and so forth. Get shallow water and so forth, you know? Yeah, man.
That might be the right moment to start things off as we continue.
Yeah, but...
So as we continue, like I said, we would have given a little brief bio of our guest this evening. So this evening we have with us Honorable Shawn Kenneth Richards, born December 8, 1972 in St. Kitts and Nevis. He is a certified public accountant with a BA in Business Administration from Cleveland State University and a master's in accountancy from the University of the Virgin Islands. He entered politics in 2004, winning the Sandy Point constituency number 5 seat, becoming PAM leader in 2012, and serving as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture from 2015 to 2022. Now an opposition MP, he stepped down as PAM leader in April 2024, but remains active, critiquing government budgets and policies as recently as December 2025. And that is the brief bio and introduction I have for you. And we're now going to give you an opportunity to, I guess, correct or adjust anything that I mentioned that is not, so correct, and or then add your personal introduction and give the public an opportunity to get a little backdrop of, Shawn Richards. Greetings. Welcome to this edition of DeTopiks.
Thank you, Shawn, for such a comprehensive and accurate bio of myself. There is nothing that you have said that I need to correct. Let me also extend greetings to Vanki. Thanks to both of you for having me on this show this evening. It is my pleasure to be back here. I also extend a very good evening to all of the persons, or let me say good day, because for some persons it may actually be morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. So good day to all of the persons who are listening to topics. I am excited to be here this evening. I'm looking forward to a very interesting conversation. I am hoping that as many persons as possible to come and let us discuss a variety of issues. Education-wise, I would add that as recently as 2024, I would have gained my PhD from the University of the Virgin Islands in creativity and innovation. The name of the program is actually Creative Leadership for Innovation and Change. I entered politics in, I think it was 2004. It's quite a while now, some 20, almost 22 years now. It's 22 years now since I've been serving as the elected member of parliament for the Sandy Point constituency number 5. I take the opportunity to say a very special thank you to the people of Sandy Point for the ability to continue to represent them. Been quite funny thus far, one in which I've been able to learn much, not just about government itself, but about people, about serving people. And that in itself has helped me to grow. It has helped me to get a greater appreciation for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and the people living in it. And it gives you an inner sense of gratitude to be able to reflect and to see how many persons you have been able to serve, how many persons you have been able to help. I think perhaps that has been the best part of my journey in politics thus far. So again, thank you for having me, and I look forward to the conversation this evening.
All right, and we definitely look forward to the engagement and the discussion ourselves here, as usual. Always interesting when you're on the platform, as you know. We get some updates as to what's happening on the ground on St. Kitts, and we have that opportunity. So let's start things off from back then. As an MP for Sandy Point since 2004, what key lessons from your time as Deputy PM shape your opposition role today?
I think certainly serving as Deputy Prime Minister from 2015 to 2022 would have given me an even greater appreciation for the role of a government and how a cabinet function, and being placed in a much better position to be able to serve persons. When I became elected in 2004, I was quite new to Parliament and to how the Parliament operates. You are quite limited as an opposition MP in that some of the resources that would become available to you as a Minister of Government, of course, you would not have those resources available to you while you are in opposition. Whether it is assisting persons with employment, assisting persons with housing, being able to do whether it is infrastructural development within the constituency. One of my passions actually is being able to see young persons develop themselves, especially educationally. And so I also had the opportunity to make a great impact on the education scene more so in my capacity as Minister of Education. As I look back, there are several different project policies, etc., that I can point to, which would have been implemented during my tenure as the Minister of Education. Additionally, I must add that during the period 2018 to 2022, it was quite an interesting time to be part of government. You had the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, and that brought its own challenges in terms of the administration of a government, in terms of what you were able to do during it and what you were not able to do. In looking back, I can say that definitely I was able to make a great impact. So in summing up, I would say being a member of government gave me an improved opportunity, a greater opportunity to be able to impact not just my constituents, but the entire Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay. How has PAM evolved since you stepped down as leader in 2024? What's your vision for the party's future?
The party, as one would know, since the last general election, just as I started in 2004, being the only member of the party, the only candidate for the party who was elected to parliament, I find myself in a similar situation now. It therefore means that the party has a lot of work to do to ensure that the party return to the reins of government. The new political leader of the party, Natasha Shani Greg Brooks, she's been doing quite a good job in terms of leading the party towards its urgence. We have named some candidates for some. We are engaging with people because that is the most important aspect of it, being able to have to go there and find out from persons what their concerns are, advocate those on behalf of people, and also develop policies and programs so that when you are in government, you're able to implement what it is that the people indicate to you that they would like to see going forward coming from a government. Just last evening, she held a town hall meeting on constituency. The party would have held a church service or worship with persons at the Bethesda Moravian Church in Keyon on Sunday. A part of the reason for that is that the party is now celebrating, I think, is 65 years since the existence of the People's Action Movement. In that regard, I must also pay homage to those who served before us, who have helped to not just found the party, but to move the party forward so that today the party is able to celebrate such a significant anniversary.
We're gonna change gears a little bit, and we're gonna get into the economic side of things. We recognize that you would have critiqued a bit the 2026 budget. You call it incompetent, with nearly $750 million deficits. Well, what specific fixes would you propose for families and small businesses?
You are indeed very correct in presenting my contribution to the budget during the 2025 debate, which was held just about a month ago. I would have said to all listening that the government is incompetent, especially relative to handling the finances of the country. Considers that within the last 2 years and this year, you would have a budget deficit of some $715 million. That is significant. That deficit, of course, is going to affect all of us in the short run and also in the long run. I can go into more details as to how a budget deficit is expected to affect persons, whether in terms of debt repayment and having to repay debt is going to crowd out, it's going to limit the ability of the government to be able to provide basic services and goods to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. When I say basic services and goods, for example, the hospital and being able to provide health care to at a quality that persons would expect, whether it is in the form of being able to get medication if you don't have the money as a government to purchase medication to stock the pharmacies because you have to use that money to repay it. The vulnerable, the poor, the senior citizens, those who depend mostly on the government pharmacy for their medication, those persons will be affected. You take schools and the ability to provide textbooks as part of the SELF program for students, that will be affected. As a matter of fact, I understand that for the last school term starting in September of 2025, no new textbooks were purchased for the SELF program because of the fact that the government doesn't have the money to be able to do so. Whether it is being able to pay vendors who provide services to the government, the ability of the government will also be seriously affected when you have to repay a debt. And I can go on and on. One would recall that we reached a crisis situation under a former Labour administration led by Denzel Douglas some years ago, when the debt got so high that even institutions which had lent money to the government were not able to get all of the money that they had lent or they had invested with the government. You had churches affected, you had credit unions affected, you had the Brimstone Hill Fortress Society affected, you had local companies such as TDC which were affected. Therefore, if we continue with this trend, we are going to see similar circumstances here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, you specifically asked what which can be done for small businesses and local persons to ensure that they are able to thrive in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I pointed out during the budget debate that if one takes a walk on 4th Street, one would recognize that the 4th Street that we knew previously is no longer the 4th Street that we now know. You would recognize that just about all of the businesses now on 4th Street are businesses which are owned by foreigners. So the question becomes, why is it that local businesses are no longer on 4th Street? Is it that local businesses and foreign businesses cannot coexist? Or is it that the investment climate here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, the policies implemented by the government, are not friendly towards local businesses? And so what you find is that the local businesses, it is not that they have moved beyond 4th Street. They are no longer operational. The high doing business has affected significantly the local businesses here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. The incentives could you have provided, or can you provide to local businesses at this particular point in time to ensure their continuity, to ensure their survival? It was only weeks ago that I was having a conversation with a local businessman who told me that after, I think, some 40-something years in business, he has been forced to close. In that it is something that he has done voluntarily, or he feels that he's of the age where he is retiring in terms of being a business owner. Things have gotten so difficult for him that previously, where he was able to meet his mortgage payments, he hasn't been able to do so. So bank has now basically seized his building, as you can guess, has been purchased by a foreign individual to undertake business here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. How do you reach out to such persons? How do you ensure that such persons in these critical and tough economic times can be given some sort of assistance, some incentives to at least help them to stabilize their business? And as a government, there are ways in which you can do so. Some businesses you can look at and determine how can I assist these particular businesses, whether it is in terms, as I said, of providing them with the necessary incentives to be able to continue to operate as a government. What can I provide them with in terms of business? Because as a government, there are some things that you can do to help in terms of sending a business to those persons. If it is, for example, that I am facing closure, the government has been renting business all over, including Port Zante. Can I assist you by ensuring that you, as a local company, is there any space that you have that I can rent? But I think more so, those businesses would be interested in an environment. What tax breaks can I provide you with? As I speak of tax breaks, one of the things that I mentioned is what duties that businesses have to endure for the importation of most of the items that they sell. Can it be looked at in terms of how those taxes are computed so that persons are able to get a break? For the first 6 months of last year, the government would have given to not just businesses but also to individuals a 4% reduction in VAT. Again, can we look at the VAT, which is still at 17%, and how we can may not go back to the 13%, but how about 15%? The Honorable Grantley, who is the Premier of Nevis and the leader of the opposition, indicated that in the actually saw an increase in revenue from VAT, even though the rate had decreased, because of course persons had more disposable income, so they were able to save more. The Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Joe, stated that for St. they saw a decrease in revenue coming in.
Is it me? It seems as if you're breaking up a bit, Mr. Richards.
But while you may see a decrease in the revenue coming in from that, one also must take into.
You seem to be having some internet challenges over on your side, Mr. Richards. So I don't know if you would want to refresh and come back in.
I did that just now. Are you hearing me? Are you seeing me?
Yes, yes. I'm seeing and hearing you now. Yes. So let's see if we could continue from there.
Okay, I don't know what is the last thing that you heard.
Okay, well, you were going good, and it just that almost at the end there when I jumped in, that's when you really started breaking up, literally. But you were explaining something about the VAT.
Yes, I was saying that
15% instead of it might not go back down to the 13%, but if at least 15%, I think that's kind of where you were at before you vocal.
Yes, I was saying that perhaps look at maybe not the 13%, but 15%, and you see what the effects of that would be. The government itself also needs to look at its own spending and its own policies to determine what it can do. The government keeps speaking about some major capital projects, but to date, we are yet to see those major capital projects. Those capital projects will also help to stimulate the economy and to provide jobs, to provide needed revenue, not just for the persons who are directly employed, but again, you have the full economic effect of those, because those persons would, of course, spend the money within the local economy. We were told, for example, that the new smart hospital is supposed to have begun since December last year. Today is the 27th of January, and to date, the only thing which has been constructed on that site is one very large billboard. We have also been told that about the New Basti High School. Up to 20 EC dollars have been advanced to the contractor for that particular project. But when you go up to the site for the Basti High School, absolutely nothing is there. These capital projects are very much needed. We were told about the Trinidadian developer who was supposed to be building approximately 200 homes per year. No, I don't even think it was 200. I think it's more like 600 homes per year. And only homes were built. So these are some of the significant capital projects which persons are still waiting to see. The government needs to implement those capital projects as a matter of urgency to help to stimulate the local economy.
Okay, I am glad that you went and spoke on VAT and some of these things, because my next question has something to do with VAT and CBI, but it's more specifically zoned into Nevis, and especially seeing that you're on a quote unquote Nevis platform this evening. I know that there would be some specific questions along the Nevis line. So, on Syndicate and Nevis, revenue sharing like VAT and CBI, how should constitutional obligations be enforced to benefit Nevis more equitably from your standpoint?
The Constitution, as it is, provides a formula, a mechanism as to how the revenue is to be shared between the Federation, St. Kitts, and Nevis. Unfortunately, I think sometimes we take some aspects of the Constitution which are convenient for us, and we exercise those aspects, and there are other aspects that we choose not to exercise. The revenue sharing agreement has become an issue of much debate in recent years. I am aware that the World Bank would have assisted the government with a report on that particular subject matter. The public is yet to see that particular report. You heard from the Premier of Nevis that he wasn't consulted. He said that very publicly for all to hear. And I think that is also quite unfortunate that whether it is the Premier or the people of Nevis were not consulted. But while that has been the case, then what about the report and making that report available to the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, so that we have a clear understanding as to what it says, and we are able to measure directly whether or not that particular formula provided by the World Bank is now being followed. Whether or not it is, that is still very questionable. However, if we are going in other aspects to say that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, then it can't be that there's some aspects of it that we exercise, and there are other aspects of it that we choose not to exercise. I remember back in, I think it was 2009 or thereabout, Shawn Richards and Lindsey Grant were told that the Constitution says they cannot be dual citizens and hold public office, be members of parliament. I went to Barbados and I renounced my US citizenship. And so that is why, and Lindsey Grant would have done the same thing. And that is why I said the Constitution cannot be a vehicle of convenience when it satisfies those in authority. If we are going to say even to the public that this is the law and you must operate within the confines of the law, be it a law enacted by Parliament or be it the Constitution says we ought to do, then we ought to do exactly that.
You know, I find this quite interesting because as I listen to you, I have been asking this question for some time, and I've been wondering then if there is such a serious breach of the Constitution, which is the highest law of the land, and the breach is being made by not just the average citizen, but by the people who are holding the highest office in the land. Why has not there been some lawyer or maybe even the federal government maybe taking the NIA to court? Why have not there been any legal action taken to seek to redress this? Because to me, sometimes from a layman perspective, it puts forward the biblical perspective of spiritual wickedness in high places, where then it's only wrong if it is done by the average individual, but then when politicians do it or the elected officials do it, it's okay. So your response to that as to why maybe that has not been taken, has not happened, and if actually, like say the Attorney General or somebody can actually literally take that issue to court.
You are correct. Someone can take that particular issue to court. I suppose in many cases the ordinary citizen does not exercise that particular option because it's perhaps difficult to find legal representation that is going to do it pro bono. These particular matters are quite hefty, quite costly, but certainly it can be undertaken whether it is by a private citizen, an organization, or even an opposition party. Or let's say the government of Nevis has gotten to that stage where it feels totally aggrieved. That is also an option for the government of Nevis to exercise if it so chooses to go that particular route.
You know, this is a very interesting topic, right? There are a number of things that I would love to follow up on, but I know that there are a number of topics still that we would have to discuss as well. But there's a follow-up question that I have, and this is why I say some of the things, especially on this topic itself, is quite interesting because, okay, my follow-up question, right, is what role could opposition play in pushing for Nevis's 25% CBI share amid ongoing disputes?
The opposition has a role in terms of in parliament and advocating certain things. And so you can advocate in terms of, depending on what is being debated in parliament, it provides a relevance for you to be able to advocate for Nevis to be paid its 25%. That can be done. You can bring a private member's bill to Parliament to basically get the bill passed to get certain things done. Now, that one is difficult because you have an opposition which is quite clearly divided, one, and two, for you to get any bill passed in the Parliament, you're laughing, but it is the reality. For you to get any bill passed in the Parliament, of course, you need a majority of the members of Parliament to support that particular piece of legislation. What I would point out, though, is that all of the political parties in St. Kitts, whether government or opposition, they have supporters. And I do believe that the biggest voice for change must come from the people, the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, who are aggrieved, the citizens who are affected. So that an opposition also has a particular option in terms of getting its supporters to stand up and to say to the government that this is what we would want to see. That can take place in many different forms. It can be shows such as this, where persons call in and they make their views known. It can be via demonstrations, be it in the street or elsewhere. It can be persons sending letters, etc., to the government indicating that, look, this is what we would want to see as citizens who are affected, as the stakeholders here in the Federation of the St. Kitts and Nevis. So an opposition has quite a number of different venues available to it to utilize to advocate, be it for the 25% or on any other issue. An opposition can hold town hall meetings where that can become the main topic of discussion. Those town hall meetings can be held publicly so that you're able to sensitize other persons as to what it is you're advocating for and the reasons for such.
Okay, I think maybe my question probably should have been amended because the question might have been geared to a typical opposition, but as you highlighted in your response that the opposition, in our case, the reality of our opposition in this case, it is divided. So maybe now I may zoom in on you specifically because you happen to be one of the members of that divided opposition. So in the sense of the Nevis aspect, now you personally, would you see yourself advocating for Nevis getting that 25%? Do you see yourself?
If persons followed the history of the elections held in 2022, they would know that one of the main planks of the People's Action Movement platform back then would have been that Nevis would get its fair share of revenue coming into the Federation of St. Kitts. Nevis views on that have not changed.
Okay, hold on. Because I like how you phrased that. You said that Nevis would get their fair share of the revenues coming into the Federation. And when you say revenues, you were not necessarily specific to just CBI. You, I guess, were...
No, because the question doesn't specifically alienate or says that CBI is the source of revenue from which Nevis should get its fair share. The Constitution looks at the whole revenue coming into the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so that is what it speaks to. So again, I repeat that we can't be selective in determining that it's only CBI revenues which should be shared fairly between St. Kitts and Nevis. But one must take a full count of all of the revenue and look at that particular mechanism as outlined by the Constitution and apply it accordingly.
You know, Mr. Richards, you are not the one who, I guess, should have to deal with some of these frustrating issues, but a lot of it comes down to lack of transparency and being forthright with the public. And you, as an opposition member at this point, I'm sure folks may be listening and maybe also saying, just like